All right, guys, this is Saturday now, so we've got the syrup that we drew off that you saw in a little bit earlier in the video. Probably was just a few seconds ago for you, but anyways, I got it here in this pot. We got a turkey fryer. We're just going to get it reheated, check the density of it, see where we're at, adjust it if we have to, and we can use either sap out of the pan and have to just bring it to a boil, or we can use distilled water. That way we don't have to boil it and it doesn't change the taste of it. But yeah, we're going to get this heated up so we can check the density. We have a hydrometer and a Murphy cup that we're going to use. I can explain that, I guess, while we're doing that. And then we've got the filter press behind me on the bench here. We're going to get that set up and get this pumped through into our canner and get it into some bottles. We'll see how much we got. So appreciate you sticking around this long. Too cold outside today. The sap's not running. But hopefully this next week here, it looks like it's going to be pretty busy. But it actually looks like it's going to get a little pretty warm. Hopefully not too warm. But we'll see what happens. So stick around. All right, so this is the pot of syrup. It's a 30 quart. It's almost like a brewer's pot. It's got a draw off valve with a thermometer on it. You really use the thermometer too much. But what's nice is the spigot. Two reasons. One is I can open this valve, draw this off. Now, this here is a test cup. This glass, I'll have to show it to you later when it's not in the syrup, is a hydrometer. That is calibrated to measure the density of the syrup. The density changes based on the temperature, or maybe the proper thing to say is it's relative to temperature. As it gets warmer, or as the syrup gets hotter, it will get thinner, so this won't float quite as high. But in addition to that, this is what they call a Murphy compensation cup. So this dial on the side is basically a thermometer that's reading with a brick scale. For syrup to be called legal maple syrup, it's 66 bricks, and that's at 60 degrees or room temperature. So 59 bricks is the hot test right here, and 66.9 bricks is the cold test. So what you do, you fill it with syrup, and you want to match whatever this says. You want it to be floating at the same spot. So you can see we're just shy of 64. And we're floating a little higher than 65. That means the syrup is too heavy. So we need to add some distilled water to it to bring it back down to the proper density. So being too heavy, it'll end up creating sugar crystals or rock candy in the bottom of the jars. And that's not always a great thing. Some people like it because you can put your coffee in there or something like that, dissolve it. It tastes really good. But there's no need to have it that heavy. So we try to get it as close to the proper density as we can. You don't want it too light, because what happens when it's too light, if it's not at the correct density, if it's under, it has too much water in it, so it could mold. And you definitely don't want that. The thing of it is with maple syrup, if for some reason it did develop mold, you just bring it up you skim it off, bring it up to a boil in a little pot, and you're fine. And it's safe to consume that way. But just figured I'd show you guys that. We're going to get this adjusted and bring it up to the right temp for filtering. So I've got the filter press all put together and ready to go. Just got a little diaphragm hand pump here. And I mentioned earlier, the other reason it's nice to have the spigot on that pail or that pot is I hook this silicone hose right to that, open that valve, and then we're we're pumping the syrup right out of the bottom of that pot. And then it ends up coming out the other hose out the other end of the press. So we've got this little stainless sweep on the end. What we'll do, I've got my canner here. I won't use it on that table, but we end up putting the canner on the turkey fryer there and filling that. And then the canner, let me show you here. So the canner is a box, stainless box. Got a thermometer down in there, a little drain port. But it's also sitting on this little tray. And this tray is longer than the canner. And we fill this with water in the bottom. And then we put that on the turkey fryer and we heat the water, and the steam heats the box to get it to the bottling temperature. So when you heat a pot of syrup up, if you heat it directly over a flame or a heat source, after you've filtered it, the syrup will create what they call niter or sugar sand all over again, because you're creating a hot spot on the bottom of the pot. So after you filter it, you got to take extra caution not to do that, because you're not going to have clear syrup in your jars or bottles, whatever you're using. So by using that water tray underneath that canner, it's an indirect heat source. So it can't get hot enough to precipitate sugar sand in the syrup again, which makes that kind of nice. It takes a little longer to heat it up that way, but it works really good. You think 2 cups? I don't remember. I'll go a little more.
So what are we adding?
So that is food grade diatomaceous earth, otherwise known as filter aid. And it seems odd to put something in the syrup that we're just going to filter back out. But what that does, that all gets trapped in the filter papers on the filter press. And if you ever played the game Jacks with the bouncy ball and the little jacks, if you zoomed in super close on the particles of diatomaceous earth, they look like jacks. And all the sediment and the filter or the sugar sand that is in the syrup gets caught in those. It just grabs a hold of it. So it gets all that stuff out of the syrup. And pumping it through a filter press is way faster, and you lose a lot less than you do just doing gravity filtering going through a wool cone. So, all right. I'll shut the flame off. All right, so we're going to set this up on the wood stove. It'll keep that warm. Did we do that jug of water? So I connected this hose, I opened that valve, we got the big whisk, stirred that up. That filter aid will settle out to the bottom. And what we're going to do here is just start pumping it through. I've got the outlet hose going into the pot because we need to charge the filter press. So the first stuff that comes out may not be 100% filtered because it could just be syrup that went through the papers. And then the other thing it does is it gets the filter press warm or up to temp. You just got to pour that in the bottom of that. Ready for you. We're ready to switch that.
You ready to switch it?
Put it in here, so yep. Switch it, don't drip. What I may want to do is just start getting it in there and bring the camera over and just show what that looks like. Because this is some awesome looking stuff. If you want a pump, I can do it. Just want to bring the camera closer and show this to you guys. I don't know if you can see how pretty that is. Some nice looking stuff. Liquid gold. Okay.
I can keep going.
It's up to you. If you want to do that, I can check the grade and check the density again. If you can see that, I think that is the lightest syrup I've ever made. So what I'm doing here is we put a sample of syrup in a vial. And we have a digital checker by Hannah. This checks the light transmittance that's through the syrup. So we have our test vial. So we turn this on. It says add reference, so we put that in, close it, hit the button, and it's ready for our test vial of syrup. So we'll drop that in, close it, hit the button, and we're going to see what it reads for percent. That's 74% light transmittance. That scale, we are 1 point off from golden delicate. 75% and higher is golden delicate. We're at 74. We'll try it one more time. And it says 72 the second time. I usually do it a few times. $71. $71. So I usually do it a few times until I get the same reading twice in a row. I'm still pretty happy about that. That's some really nice looking stuff.
So what is it?
71.
Which is
Amber.
oh good. You can mark that down at 71. So it's a later amber than a darker amber.
Right. We can make notes of that.
I'm almost done here.
Oh yeah? Need to tip that. Tip it up with 2 hands. We got syrup running out the back. I'm gonna have to get a jar of water too. So when we get to the end, we suck some water through the press, and we'll put that into a pail, and we'll put that right back into the pan when we boil the next time. So the only waste we have is at the very, very end, last finish of the season. So
Do you want to open up the gate?
Just splashed syrup all over the place. It never fails. Try to keep things as clean and not sticky. And you always end up with it somewhere that you didn't intend on. So we're just going to recheck the density here. Says we want 62. We're at 62 and a half on the dial. So we're just a touch light, like a half a point light, but by the time this heats up, the bottling temp will be good. We can check one more. We're just a touch low, but by the time it comes up to temp for bottling, we should be good. You can see it sheeting off that. All right, we hit our 185. That's what we try to do for bottling. Come on. You need it to pour as slow as possible because you don't want the bottle all full of bubbles when it gets to the top and then you can't put the cap on. Kind of like that. Probably good. Our first half gallon of the 2025 season. Okay, everybody. I don't know if you can see here. We've got 2 half-gallons in plastic jugs. There's 3 half-gallons in jars, 3 quarts, and 1 pint. And I'll just tell you, that is some gorgeous looking syrup. So 3 3/8 gallons. So that's kind of our process, guys. I'm sorry, this is probably going to be a pretty long video with the first boil, first bottle, first finish, first filter, all that stuff. But it's been fun. We got a nice batch of syrup made. We really appreciate you watching, especially if you stuck around this long to the end, but I think it was well worth it to see the end result. So as always, we appreciate you being here. Drop us a comment down below. Let us know what you think. And we will catch you guys on the next one. See ya.